therapeutic moment in treatment, the confidentiality still has to be upheld. We can't minimize, we can't pretend like they didn't tell us that, or, you know, until they tell me more. You know, we still have to report it, we still have to keep it with the level of importance that it has, but we also want to make sure that everyone's being protected. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I have a question.
Yes.
We used to use behavior intervention plans and
Mhm.
put those in there. Are we still using that system for
No.
offense specific?
No. And I have absolutely no idea what system is in place.
So it would be just a word of mouth on if there's a client who's going someplace that
Correct.
that's how it's relayed?
My hope is, I've actually got 2 to 3 hopes. Number one, I would like, and we've got it down here as well, I would like us to start using the language of informed supervision, because that's what I'm teaching you. I'm not teaching offense-specific therapy. And I would like us to take off of our training SO, sexual offender, because that's automatically where our brain goes. Instead of, if we're gonna say that a client has offending charges, it's offense-specific needs. You have a client that has offense-specific needs. Because that labeling is really important. The kids are not willing to kind of open up if everyone's looking at them as sex offender. You know, that doesn't really help their self-esteem. And again, we're trying to get back to that. So my hope, besides using the correct terminology, is that admissions, really it is at the responsibility of the placing people to put, yes, this person has charges. And it's, you know, as therapists, it's gonna be really important for us to ask those questions. You know, if I'm a therapist or a behavior coach, even if I'm not doing offense-specific therapy with them, which, like I said, you guys will not be doing offense-specific therapy, but asking, are there any specific needs? Are there any charges pending or otherwise that I might need to know about? What are those charges, so that we can make sure that we're safety planning around it? Because, you know, even if we take the sexual part out of it, if you've got a kid that cannot help themselves but steal CCC every time they're in the grocery store, you probably don't want to take them to the grocery store for life skills. You probably want to work on some other stuff. And if we are going to the grocery stores, we're going to talk about the theft, and we're going to talk about, so, I mean, really kind of knowing the clients and what are their charges, so that we're not putting them in that position. Okay. Well, it is 4 o'clock. And there are a ton of other places that we did not get to in safety planning. Certainly I'd like to have everyone, you know, put on your thinking caps when you're, just like we did with these 2 places, when you're thinking about where you're going to be with someone else, or the cottage, what are the problems in cottage? When you're at the rec center, what are the problems at a rec center? And I'm going to really briefly touch on a pool. Almost never, except for here at Excelsior, will you get a multidisciplinary team to sign off on a safety plan for a pool. A pool is almost always completely nixed. Why do you think that is?
Bathing suits.
Bathing suits, what else?
Changing
What else?
in the water, under the water.
The visibility, you can't see them in the water. A lifeguard is only responsible for if they're drowning. It cannot pay attention to your age brackets are all over the place. You can have little kids swimming between your legs even when you're not with that little kid. It's a very unpredictable environment. I have been able to get all of our clients who have offense-specific needs, their people to sign off on safety plans for using the pool here at Excelsior, because A, we don't have a wide variety of ages. B, they're all in individual stalls for their changing anyway. C, we practice a 5-foot rule in the pool for all of our clients, not just our offense-specific clients. So they will allow as well as we do mandatory disclosure, which means they go to the lifeguard and the person running the class, and they tell them what their offense was, what their victims were, what their triggers are. So we make them do a mandatory disclosure with the people who are responsible for the pool. And when all those criteria are met, the multiple disciplinary team will sign off on it. But this is the only environment I've been able to get them to sign off on it, okay? So pools are kind of, leave those out until the client's done with their treatment.
Is there any other areas that are kind of like no-goes, like the pool?
Pool is a no-go. McDonald's playrooms are almost always a no-go because of the vast age, and you can crawl up in those two, you know, anytime where you're looking at the visibility is going to be completely impossible, that's gonna be a no-go. Some of the other things are very negotiable depending on where your client is in their treatment. Like I had a client, a male client, that was allowed to be on the wrestling team. He had charges, but because of where he was at in his treatment, and his wrestling coach was actually his informed supervisor, so he had to go and disclose all of his triggers, what his safety plans were, who his victims were, all of those things. So the coach knew all of the ins and outs, and the coach actually became a really great support for this kid throughout the day. So if he was getting triggered in one of his other classes, we wrote it in as part of his school safety plan for him to be able to go and talk to coach. And they worked out in advance, you know, where he goes to change and things like that. So a lot of, because really again, the recidivism goes down when clients are participating in normal, healthy social activities. It will go down. So really, how can we get them involved and look at any of the opportunities as, all right, what can we do? One other no-go area that you need to be super careful for, both therapeutically as well as a behavior coach, is the internet. Almost every client who has charges, especially if there's any form of sexting or porn or any of those things, well, and even without those, the internet is there's a lot of probationary rules around what they can do on the internet or not do on the internet. And so that also leaks over, guys, onto phones, all these smartphones that can go on the internet. That leaks over into some of the different video games where you can go online from the video games. So you gotta kind of keep that online stuff make sure that you really know all their rules around that online stuff. Any other questions for me? All right, well, thank you. And anytime, guys, if you have a question of, hey, I want to do this and I have an offense-specific kid, you can always shoot me an email and I'll help you problem solve what are the areas of how we can make it happen or what we should avoid. Okay? All right. Thank you.